Charlie, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining me on the Bearded Tit today. Do you think Jack's trying to tell us something?
I think he must be. Yeah, I think he's body swerving this one. He's probably lying face down in a river somewhere as we speak.
Getting two other bearded tits to talk for 40 minutes whilst he's out he's out looking at other things.
Yeah.
So, Charlie, thanks for joining me today. So, you're an award-winning photographer, you're field officer for whale and dolphin conservation, and you've been monitoring the lives of bottlenose dolphins here in the UK for over 25 years.
Yeah, mostly up in the Moray Firth and the kind of northeast coast, as far up as maybe Whitcurthers or something like that. But mainly based around about Inverness and the Black Isle.
So where did this all begin? How did Charlie Phillips go from, bearded Scotsman to dolphin guru? How did it all come about?
I didn't actually have a beard when I started this, I'll tell you, and it wasn't half as grey as it is now. If I did have. No, it sort of came. It's funny how serendipity comes around, bites you in the arse sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I used to have holidays when I was very, very young. When I was about 8 or 9, away up in the Dornoch Firth. My family had a caravan up on the site at a little village called Port Mahomet, and my dad had a little dinghy, and they used to go out sailing. And I remember seeing dolphins then when I was really, really young. And I remember seeing these dolphins coming right up to the dinghy, and they were nearly the length of the boat.
Yeah.
Oh, these things are amazing. And yeah, after that, I didn't really think much about it, but life moves on. And I actually was really brought up round about Loch Lomond side. But then after I had a bad accident, I came up to the Moray Firth to recuperate and actually take over a wee business, just to keep myself busy and out of trouble. And I happened to look out the cottage door one day, and there was dolphins leaping about Cullen Bay, and this was like 1988, and I thought, oh God, these dolphins are following me around, because I remembered all the years ago, up in the Donegal, and I got involved with a local watch group called Friends of the Moray Firth Dolphins, and Pete McDonald and Tony Archer and a few others, and it was a great wee group, and we started sharing information. It was basically like a telephone network. Where are the dolphins? What are they doing? And we eventually set up little talk shows and stuff, and did village halls and that kind of thing with slides. Then there was no digital then; it was all slides, and we used to go about various groups and just basically praising the dolphins as the wonderful apex predators that they were, and it went from there. And my buddy Tony Archer was beginning to think about leasing the old Salmon Station down at Skye Bay from the Skye fisheries. And also the brain goes at this time of day. The actual building itself was available for lease, but it needed quite a lot of work done to it. And Tony was actually thinking about turning it into a little wildlife centre, because we knew there was ospreys and stuff around, but you could also see dolphins from the mouth of the Spey as well. And eventually Tony was actually working part-time for the Highland Council as an interpretive officer for a newly opened little research centre through at North Kessock, just at the other side of the Kessock Bridge. And Tony ended up spending so much time trying to get the old Salmon Station up and running as a wildlife centre. He had no time to actually go through to Inverness to do this job. And in the meantime, I had passed my little newsagent's business on to my mum and dad, because they had retired. They're actually retired by this time, and it meant that I actually got handed a job by literally by Tony's bosses, because he actually made a phone call and said, "Look, I need to step away from this job, but I've got somebody I know that can do it, you know.
Brilliant.
So he basically knitted me a job. And it was nice because it was a little research centre. It was run in conjunction with Aberdeen University. They put a lot of science into it, and we had a big hydrophone set up in the Keswick Channel. With 3 different units that you could switch over and you could listen to them. It was brilliant. You know, I mean, some days it was like this dolphin rock concert going on. You know, it was absolutely brilliant. And so I became the interpretive officer in there. I became the full-time one. I started off job sharing, but I eventually became the full-time guy. And we had some part-times and some students, and it was a great 5 or 6 years that I was involved in that. But in the meantime, I had met some members of staff from, as it was then, Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society, and they would come in. They were bringing people up to the area on holidays that were called Out of the Blue holidays. I eventually started taking people over to the West Coast and working from Gairloch with a friend of mine. And it was great. It was great fun. So that Dolphin and Seal Centre, as it was, the science that was going into it was fantastic. You know, we had researchers from all over the world coming to plumb into this, and also you could hear seal stuff as well as dolphin stuff.
Oh, brilliant.
So I was getting seal researchers and stuff going in too, and I was giving them a hand if they needed recording tapes changed at 11 o'clock at night. Then I lived locally, so I would just and I had the keys. I would just nip in and change the recording tapes and stuff. And actually, at night was really good for recording because there was much less vehicle activity going across the bridge, so you were getting less sound transmission coming through onto the recording, so it was much clearer.
Got you.
The recordings were lovely, and but then I mean the sort of technology then was okay, but it was still fairly basic. You know, I mean, things had to be plumbed in. They were either battery operated, or you had to try and find a main source somewhere to power a battery pack and stuff. You know, but no, it did a great job, and a lot of scientists had great papers that came out of the research there. Nowadays, a lot of these machines can be remotely deployed, and they've got battery packs, and they've got memory cards that can last for months and months and months at a time. And we actually did a project a year or two back at Channery Point. Funnily enough, we had a big machine. Aberdeen Uni had a big machine deployed halfway between the point and Fort George. There's a big deep bit there, and it's a lovely channel to get sound, and you can actually get a lot of boat sound there as well. So there was a couple of the researchers were using the data in different ways. You were listening for dolphin sound, and anything else that was going around, but also you could actually tie up which type of vessels were in the area too, because they would tie up with the times of my camera images. So you are actually getting that, plus also any dolphin images that were going around as well. It was really nice. Do you want to hear a little bit of sound?
Yeah, let's whack some on. Let's give this a go and see how this works on the old Zoom.
Right, tell you what then, just give us a wee second here, Billy, and hopefully we can hear this, okay?
Fingers crossed. Now that.
Yeah.
That's pretty special.
Yeah, that's clicking and whistling. The clicking.
Look at that. Well, listen to that.
Powerful echolocation. Yeah.
So, and this was recorded in Keswick?
At Channery Point.
Channery Point, round the corner.
Yeah.
So, and this would probably be at a time where they're feeding as well. Do you reckon these are sort of echolocations as they're searching for fish?
Yeah, the big really loud stuff, that's powerful echolocation. That's them actually zooming in on a fish. But there's also whistling there as well, and that's the communication medium that dolphins use between themselves. So what I'll do is
that's not a bad way to spend a Tuesday evening recording a Zoom call, is it? Listening to bottlenose dolphins from the Moray Firth. That's pretty phenomenal.
It's not bad. It's got its hang on a minute, where are we? Right, so that is that, and if I just stop sharing that now, that'll get us back onto it. There we go. So then, I'm I'm always a little bit nervous about screen sharing because you never know what voodoo's going to happen.
Clear your browsing history, Charlie. So then, how did you go from, at this time, obviously you're doing all the audio tapes and stuff, and you mentioned there you were matching it to your photographs and images. How did the photography sort of come into play with you when you started working with WDC Society as they were back then?
Yeah, it sort of backpedaled for a while. The Dolphin Sales Centre had a limited amount of visual interpretation. Any of the pictures that we had really were courtesy of the Lighthouse Field Station, Aberdeen University, St Andrews University, that kind of thing. And it was all pretty much dorsal fin pictures and nicks and scratches and that kind of stuff about identifying them. But there was very few dynamic social pictures, energetic pictures.
So more behavior stuff.
There wasn't a great deal of that. So I thought to myself, well, I'll go and get myself a camera and see if I can get anything, because there was nothing really forthcoming. I had to watch what I was doing because I was employed by what is now the Highland Council, so I had to follow some rules. But I said, look, we've got very little pictures here. Any chance, when I've got a day off or something like that, I could go and try and get slightly better pictures than what we've got. And I was just given a free rein, said, yeah, fine, go for it. Nice. And so I ended up buying some half reasonable equipment, but it was all second hand. Really, it was old Canon cameras and 300 2.8 lenses and that kind of stuff, because I didn't have an awful lot of money. And started that, and the pictures gradually got better. It was all on slide film. And the pictures gradually got better. And as we rolled into the 2000s and, the 2003, I think it was, I changed over from film to digital, and basically haven't really looked back since, And I mean, the pictures that I was able to get fairly early on were reasonable enough for people to actually want to borrow them and use them and stuff, and get a few in magazines and that kind of thing. So that came to the attention of one or two of the staff from WDCS, as they were then. And so we started talking, and they wanted me to possibly start doing a little blog for them now and again, and if I could, throw a wee picture in, every so often, that would be great, And it was called Charlie's Diary, and it was a great. Then it was actually quite a nice idea, because it could keep people informed about what was going on when they maybe couldn't get on holiday to come up and see the Dolphins or whatever, because by that time the Dolphins were getting really popular round about Keswick and Chanonry Point and up in Cromarty as well. So we actually had quite a nice audience for that kind of thing. But then I was starting to get emails flying about asking me to make this kind of situation a little bit more permanent. And they knew that the Dolphin Centre, that my contract with the Highland Council was coming to an end, so they started taking me on as a consultant, sort of local man on the ground type of thing.
Okay.
And it just went from there. And one day I was summoned down to lovely Chippenham, and
round the corner from me.
Yeah, just round the corner from you. Round to Chippenham, and I was given a tour of the place and basically lashed to a chair and given a pen and told to sign on the dotted line. And I ended up signing up for the Adopt a Dolphin field officer post, because the dolphin adoption program has always been a big money spinner for the charity. And
of course,
nowadays, they do the adopt an orca and adopt a humpback as well, but the adopt a dolphin one pulls in a fair bit of money. And I was the man on the ground, our man in Inverness type thing. But also at that time, I was also getting fairly heavily involved with British Divers Marine Life Rescue. So I was sometimes going to strandings or to rescues, or just picking up dead carcasses, dead bodies, that kind of thing. So I was actually gaining quite a lot of experience, and some of it bitter experience, some of it better experience, some of it nicer than others. But there you go. But you gain experience as you go along, as you very well know, and some of the things you see are, geez,
Yeah.
You wake up screaming during the night, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
Then other times you have the most amazing experiences, especially with, you know, with the likes of whales and dolphins, because they're such intelligent, sentient animals. You just don't know what's going to happen next. And I think that was one of the things that I get asked very often is, you know, oh, why do you love whales and dolphins? What, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
what keeps you doing? You know, what
Have you
keeps
read
you
my
doing?
crib sheet? Because that was,
You know, well,
you read in my crib sheet, because that's the next question.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, I was.
oh,
Well, yeah, no. Oh, he's ruined it.
I
He's
tend to
jumped on
get
it.
I tend to get asked I tend to get asked this quite a lot, and
Oh,
it
I do
just seems
apologize.
to spring up. It
Just
just
dropped
seems
something
to
as well.
spring up.
Well, I was going to say, you've been doing this for, you've been photographing dolphins for, 25 years, and
Yeah.
Inverness, it's quite a long way up the country, and it's not known for its tropical climate or its full sun. And that I've been to Shannery Point. Well, I've interviewed you a couple of years ago in June on Shannery Point, and it was heckin' freezing, wasn't it? And that was the middle of the Scottish summer. So I was going to ask you before you beat me to it. What keeps you going there day after day, photographing these dolphins?
The bottlenose dolphins themselves have unique characters. They are highly individual animals. You know, there's when some people look at dolphins, they just see dolphins, and it's the same as any wildlife, Billy. You know yourself, if you can slow down and just look properly and watch carefully and observe, then you're going to see differences that make one animal completely different from another one. Although they might look superficially similar, you will see differences, and that's the great beauty of the dorsal fin recognition, for identification purposes. But they've got characters as well. They're not just it's not just scratches and bites out the fin that you're looking for. You're also looking for characters as well. And they have this amazing sense of humor, and they can take the piss out of each other just as much as we can. And they can fight, they can have friendships, they can have decades-long friendships, they can battle like hell during the kind of, the sort of mating season around about July, August. You can have some of the males taking lumps out of each other. But then, a couple of days later, you'll see the two of them swimming along, best buddies, and these kind of alliances and things. I mean, your fundamental tool of being able to identify them lets you know that it is the same dolphins that you're watching. And you can put a name. You can put a name or a number to the, to the face of the dorsal fin, but it lets you just lift the lid a little bit. You can lift the lid on their lives just this little bit, and you can see into this special world that they have, and that's what gets me going first thing in the morning. Apart from very strong coffee with 3 sugars in it. But the thing is that I don't know what each day is going to be like. I might be out in a boat, I might be down at Chanonry, I could be in Keswick, I could be up at Cromarty, I could be going helping with a stranding somewhere, and you just never know what's going to happen. But basically, it's like a soap opera. It's like a soap, and if you keep watching in the same area for a length of time, you're going to get to know the characters of the soap, and you're going to get to know who does what, when, who, how, all this kind of stuff. And I was going to say it changes, but it doesn't change, but it does. The characters are still most of the characters are still there. You lose some, Sadly, you do lose some, but then you get the new ones at the other end of the conveyor belt coming in, and they're starting their lives, and you're getting these young characters coming in, and they're making their way through the hierarchy of the dolphin, the dolphin society, and it's brilliant watching them
find their way.
And just finding their fins in wild bottlenose dolphin society. And if you begin to understand a little bit about what's going on, you got to be very careful about over interpreting stuff. You don't want to start sounding silly, and a bit too airy fairy, and that's I prefer to go down the kind of scientific route and just watch and just observe, and tell people what you're seeing, not what you think you see.
Yeah, exactly.
And that can be an important bit. Don't get too out there with it. Don't get too left field. But you've always got to be open to new ideas, because dolphins can just tear the rule book up. They are experts at it, and they've made me look an absolute arse on more than one occasion, believe you me.
Well, most of the times I've spent with you, when I've actually been with you at Shannery Point, we've seen natter, and usually you're like, they were here yesterday at this time. And then and I've had that when I've taken people to, regular spots where, for a little while, you can sort of predict if they're feeding at different times of the tide. And I've had this in Cornwall where I remember we were working. I used to work for the National Trust down there, and for about 2 weeks, 1 April, the dolphins were doing Newquay to St Ives and back every single day, with a shift of about a shift of about 45 minutes for the tide. And I remember I was listening, and it was they're doing the same route up and down. And I remember saying to a girl called Holly, I was like, "You'll see dolphins today." She lived in Cornwall all of her life, never seen a dolphin. And I said, about 3 o'clock today, you'll see one. And they actually listened to me that day, because at 3 o'clock they swam straight past the headland. But it was a complete fluke. And then obviously and then I don't think I've seen them there ever since. It's sort of but that's the thing about bottlenose. I agree with you. There's something very special about them. I've been quite lucky. I've been on the bow of a boat with, common dolphins bow riding, or Atlantic spotted dolphins, dusky dolphins, and overseas. But there's something about a bottlenose dolphin when it turns and eyeballs you. There's just all dolphins are intelligent, and for me, it just seems that bottlenose is that one step up.
There's something else there
something
as well.
Going on.
Yeah, there's something else. Yeah,
I've had a very memorable occasion where I had a GoPro on a metal pole over the side of a boat, just trying to get some underwater footage, and then all of a sudden my arms vibrated and shook. I sort of looked down, and like the pole wasn't touching the boat, because at first I thought it would just came from the side of the boat, vibrations from the boat and the engine. But then I realized that the pole was completely out in the water, not touching anything. And as I'm thinking this dolphin just turned and looked at me, and then swam off, and then battered a barrel jellyfish out of the water. And then I can only think it echolocated the camera, and it reverberated up my arms, which was just, and then it looked at me as if to say, "Got you," and then swam off. And it was just pretty phenomenal, actually.
Yeah, well, some of that sound that I played you, the really loud echolocation, you can sometimes hear that if you're sitting in a boat.
Yeah, you can hear
with the engine switched off. You can actually sometimes hear that through the hull, depending on what the hull's made of. Acoustically, they're absolutely incredible animals. Absolutely incredible.
We doing a survey out of Newquay one day, and we were on a catamaran, and I was talking to the skipper. I think we're having a cup of tea. We're going done the survey. We're coming back into the harbour, but I think we were just having a drink and having a chat. And he was like, "There's bottlenose dolphins under the boat. Couldn't see couldn't see anything. No. Hadn't seen anything." And he's like, "I can feel them." I was like, and he was holding. And I was like, "What do you mean you can feel them?"
You can feel them.
You're in the cabin. And then he was like, "No, they're whacking."
I can.
And he was like, "They're whacking the hull of the boat." And he was like, "Go look over the top." And then they had like a little bit, and I looked over the bow, and all of a sudden this dolphin came out from underneath the boat. There's 2 of them, and I was just like, bloody hell! And he reckoned they were banging the hull of the boat, like, speed up, and then they started bow riding. It was just, it was just phenomenal. So we were saying, you're sort of talking about individuals, and you're seeing their characteristics, and you're seeing those young ones come through the conveyor belt and finding their place in dolphin society.
Yeah.
You're probably not supposed to have favorites.
But just what you were saying, well, actually, what you were saying about the dolphins coming up and actually knocking the side of the boat and stuff, I mean, that actually times in beautifully with my favorite dolphin. You're just going to ask me who my favorite dolphin is. She's a female called Keslet, ID 433, and I've known her for decades. I've known her ever since she was tiny.
Yeah,
and she used to spend a lot of her time in the Keswick Channel with her mum, who was called Kess.
Yeah,
ID, and she was wonderful. She actually had scoliosis. She had quite severe scoliosis, the old Kess. And Keslet was brought up in the Keswick Channel, and sadly, Kess died when Keslet was 4 years old.
Quite young in Dolphins' life.
Fairly young, but she was independent. She had a big brother that was going about as well at the same time. But dolphins have this social system, and they have friends, and they have relatives and stuff. And she was as right as rain. She was absolutely no problem at all. And I kept seeing her again and again and again. And I really had this funny bond with her. It was really, really amazing. Probably because I'd seen her from when she was so young. But even more nowadays, her son, who was born in 2007, I had the great honour from Aberdeen University of actually having a dolphin named after me, which is most unusual.
Yeah.
And he's called Charlie, ID number 1025. And I've literally seen him, since the first week he was born. And what a brat of a dolphin, utter brat of a dolphin, really. And he's like that with boats. He comes up to a rib that you're in, and he'll rub himself right up and down the rubber sponson. I sometimes go out with Eco Ventures from Cromarty, it's Sarah and the gang who we've been out with. Brilliant boat trips, but also the likes of North 58 along at Findhorn, and then my friends at Inverness Marina, Dolphin Mischief and Dolphin Spirit. And I've actually been out with the Dolphin Spirit quite a lot on the rib, which is called Mischief. Yeah. And we go past Chanonry and we head up towards Fort George and out over towards Nairn. And Charlie knows that because that boat is moored in the marina, he knows the engines of that boat so well that he knows that boat's not going to do anything stupid, and he'll come right over to it and he'll literally be rubbing himself up and down the rubber. Punters on the boat think I've got a whistle to actually bring him over. I said, look, I don't have a whistle. No. This is this dolphin doing this because he wants to do this.
Yeah.
And people can't believe that this is but how can the dolphin remember? I said, because it's got a bloody big brain. It's got a bigger brain than I've got.
Exactly.
So that type of thing, yeah. And that again is another part of what I was saying about no 2 days ever being the same, because I mean, yourself, I mean, we've been out together a few times and there's been absolutely hee-haw going on, and then the next time, there's dolphins all over the damn place, and it's an absolute three-ring circus. So that's another reason why you just live for the day and just see what happens. And every day is a school day as far as I'm concerned, because you might think you know quite a lot about whales and dolphins, but there's nothing like wild animals to teach you a new trick or two, and probably show you something that you've never ever seen before. So, yeah.
I completely agree with you. I've had days, and this is sort of the joy of UK marine life. We've got some fantastic marine life on our doorstep, which I think often gets overlooked.
Oh, brilliant!
And brilliant. I've had those days where you're out at sea for 4 to 6 hours and you barely see a gannet, let alone anything else. And other days,
tell me about it. Tell me about it.
And then when you got sort of a boat full of tourists, and you're trying to say, well, yesterday we had this, and then we go around the corner here. There's every chance you'll see, but then there's been other days where it's just like an episode of Blue Planet, and it's
absolutely.
Yeah. So then, with regards to and obviously with your career photographing bottlenose dolphins, it's not, but you're not just a sort of one-man band with dolphins. You're sort of a jack of all trade when it comes to wildlife photography, and you spent quite a lot of other time photographing other critters. But one thing I was going to ask you is, you spent a lot of time in the Moray Firth photographing bottlenose dolphins. Your book's phenomenal, and obviously in for whale and dolphin conservation as well. But is there a particular encounter with another species of whale or dolphin that you've had, whether that's in the UK or overseas, that is the one, that moment there? If you could go back and relive that now, what would it be?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And I think I've actually mentioned this on the Rising Tide. It was the only chapter in the book that wasn't about bottlenose dolphins. And it was many years ago, as part of the kind of job, I was fairly new in the job with WDCS, but it was also a bit of a crossover with BDLMR as well, British Divers. And we got word that there was a sperm whale seemed to be in trouble. It was wandering about very near a fish farm on the Isle of Skye, Loch Einert, I think it was. And it's between Broadford and Portree, and there's a big fish farm there. And this big, apparently, it was quite a big animal.
Yeah.
This sperm whale was it was nearly Christmas. I think it was like the 23rd or 24th of December, you know, and the weather was starting to get pretty damn wild. And of course, you know, Muggins here was the guy on the spot. Oh, can you just nip to Skye? Oh yeah,
From
know,
Inverness.
it's
Yeah,
like
okay.
10 minutes in the car, you know. Yeah. So you know, an hour and a half to 2 hours later, you know, you're crossing the Skye Bridge. But I managed to get up and have a look from land at this animal, and it was blundering about, and it looked pretty thin.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we'd made contact with the wonderful Peter Fowler, who used to run boat trips from Armadale Pier, and a really nice guy, an absolute rascal, but a great guy. And he actually brought a small inflatable with an engine on the back of his pickup. Yeah. And we launched it. And by this time, there was police and stuff, you know, actually standing watching us. And we explained what we were doing. I said, no, I said, I've got a camera around my neck. I said, because I need to go out and assess the health of this animal and see, just to see whether we had to call out the full Thunderbirds, you know, the outfit, you know, or whether it looked as though it was maybe going to go back out itself. And dearie me, you were out in a bit of water in a very small boat. Inflatable, yeah, very small inflatable with a small engine. And Peter was great, though. He was absolutely great at handling it. And we managed to follow this animal around for a couple of minutes, just to allow me to get a few pictures. We didn't want to go too close. We didn't want to startle it, you know. But this wee engine was very, very quiet, and it didn't seem to elicit any response from the whale at all. And I could see you know the great big heads that whales, the sperm whales have. Yeah. But it actually went down at the back, and all the fat at the back of the head was missing. It had actually metabolized a lot of this. Right. It was actually running on empty. It hadn't had food for a while, and it was dehydrating as well. Yeah. And of course, blubber's made up of water. You know, but blubber's got a lot of water in it, and this is what happens when whales and dolphins aren't well and there's something going on. They can quite awfully, if they're not eating, then they're dehydrating at the same time. And the minute they start dehydrating, that starts this cascade downwards. And it's never a good story. So I managed to get a few pictures in failing light and in an approaching storm. Really, I've never been so cold in my life. How I held on to that Canon 1D Mark II and that 70 to 200 2.8 lens, I have got no idea. To this day, I don't know why that camera didn't end up in the drink somewhere. But we managed to get back on shore, and the animal was tracking. It was doing the same thing again and again and again. But while we were quite close to it, you could actually hear it clanging. It was making this clanging. It was you know, constantly clanging, and that's what they do when they're echolocating. Yeah, when they're echolocating in deep water, they actually send out this very, very powerful pulse of echolocation, and it sounds for all the world like Big Ben going off. You know, it's really that loud. You know, it's that loud, and you can actually feel it. Yeah, you could feel it. You know, we weren't in the water with it. We were in a rubber dinghy, but you could actually feel it at the side of this animal. It was incredible. And I'll tell you, for a couple of days after that, I wasn't much company at all. I was just away in a world of my own. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever done or seen in my life, was be with this big animal. Yeah. And thankfully, it did make its way back out. It didn't get entangled, which is one of the great things at the moment that we're trying to make people aware of, is entanglement in fishing gear and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Thankfully, it didn't. And it made its way back out of this sea loch, back up the coast of Skye, and hopefully up north to where it would find food. And through the food, it would find rehydration, and hopefully, you know, it would pick up a condition again. But it's one of the most amazing things that I've ever done. It was just be with this huge animal. I mean, it was a full adult, big adult male, enormous thing. You know, biggest brain on the planet. You know, just wow, bang. You know. Yeah, you're not going to top that anytime soon, are you? No, not much. No, not for me anyway. No.
No, and you've actually, and once again, you've led on to my next question, like effortlessly, which is, and we started talking there. It's almost like I sent you these before, isn't it? Well, we started talking there about obviously, yeah, net entanglement at the minute is a major threat to our UK marine, well, all marine vertebrates, as not just whales and dolphins. I've seen it all over the coast with grey seals stuck in frisbees and ghost nets and etc. etc. The list goes on. So apart from net entanglement, obviously we both quite aware of what's going on with our UK seas, but what are the other big threats right now that are currently facing our UK whales and dolphins? We've got marine pollution and stuff like that as well. But then with that, what would you recommend people at home listening can do to help those animals?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we are seeing, especially with coastal species like bottlenoses, the food supply is getting less and less and getting very, very patchy in certain areas. And we don't know whether this is because of overfishing. It probably is due to overfishing. But it's also indiscriminate overfishing. It's not targeted fishing that's going on. It tends to be pretty indiscriminate, and this is wiping a lot of stuff out. So it's impacting lots of species. We're basically strip mining. We're actually strip mining the seas that we have around our country. And this can lead to all sorts of problems. People are beginning to see, and like I said, you guys down there on the south coast, you're beginning to get regular visits from tuna and stuff. And there's beautiful big fish. Absolutely
they are
fantastic.
stunning. I'm lucky to have seen them 3 or 4 times, and I mean, never got a decent photograph. But as soon as it's happened, it's like, because with dolphins you can kind of predict if they're around, you can kind of predict where they're going to come up. With these guys, it's just like a buffalo launching itself out of the water.
I'd love to come down and join you in one of the boats out there and actually have a go at those, because what beautiful fish.
They're
absolutely
enormous.
Incredible things.
Was a couple of summers ago, I was out and I remember we had common dolphin and tuna feeding on the same bait ball, gannet. This was one of those Blue Planet days, gannets are diving in, common dolphins are there. And I remember I was on the bow and it was probably between 10 and 20 meters away. This bluefin tuna just threw itself out of the water, and it was just, I mean,
magnificent.
I won't repeat what I said.
No, I bet. I can imagine. I can imagine.
Exactly. But just a completely stunning animal. But the worry is, people, overfishing and stuff. They're finally making a comeback in our waters. It's kind of what we don't want, is them to then bugger off again.
Yeah, but people are asking quite often, why are we beginning to see these species coming more regularly to the coastline? And it's possibly something to do with global warming. We're beginning to get the waters warming up. And the food density tends to be where the water is colder, and everything's moving north. Everything just seems to be moving north. I mean, we've got a prime example just now. We've got quite a few of our dolphins have scattered from the Moray Firth area. And we don't know why they're doing it. We don't know whether it's maybe salmon, the terrible state of the salmon stocks at the moment. Which is why dolphins normally come down to the likes of Channery Point. It tends to be in the summer, spring, summer, autumn. It tends to be for the salmon. But there's very, very few salmon left, and the dolphins have got to go and try and find other things. So we've had dolphins have broken away from the main population and from their core areas, and we've discovered them. We've even got a couple of dolphins down in Weymouth and Dorset.
There's a pair down there, isn't there? There's a couple down there.
That's Honey and her calf. I photographed them in 2018 just off Channery Point.
They've been in the press quite a bit this summer, haven't they? Been spotted.
I think they called them Wills and Harry or something like that. Tom Brereton was very kind and sent me some decent ID pictures. One of his guests, they were out doing a nature trek holiday on one of the boats. And one of his guests took a couple of pictures and posted them up on Twitter. And I just happened to be flicking through Twitter, and I thought, wait a minute, I recognize that dorsal fin. Because her calf has got a very, ID 1212's got a funny buckling at the back of the dorsal fin. I just thought, wait a minute, that looks familiar. And I asked Tom to send better pictures if he possibly could, and bang to rights, absolutely bang to rights. There's Honey and her calf. Quite the thing. And we've also had dolphins pretty much all the time now off the coast of Ireland as well.
Yeah, they've
We
gone
had
over.
we had a group went to Ireland for a while, and some of them came back, but some of them didn't. Including one of our adoption females, Moonlight, and she ended up off the coast of the Isle of Man. She's quite often seen from Peel Beach, and she's got a calf with her as well. But then some of those dolphins that were there, some of them did come back, some of them didn't, and I think some of them have continued on a bit as a sort of continuation of the journey.
Yeah.
And we also had dolphins that we know from just off the coast of Holland. And that same group, part of that same group, have come back. Part of that group there that were seen off Holland have actually headed north, and they're off the coast of Denmark now.
That's just the distances they're covering is just vast, isn't it?
Oh, it's crazy! It's absolutely crazy. I mean, it's thousands of miles. It's not just a couple of hundred miles. It's actually thousands of miles. Yeah, but the thing is that that's the beauty of whales and dolphins, because they have all the tools at their disposal, like echolocation and unihemispheric sleep and all that kind of stuff. They can travel almost relentlessly, and it doesn't take them long to get anywhere. And that's what we forget.
But that was like John Coe again popped up. I mean, John Coe and Aquarius, the orca pop up every now and then. But it was just this summer, because it was the week before I went back down to Cornwall for a week. They were spotted off the Minack Theatre, Porthcurno in Cornwall. And it was something daft to think within 2 weeks they were off the Isle of Skye. It's just
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I had John Coe and his big buddy Aquarius keeping me company at Channery a couple of Januaries ago. It was crazy.
Yeah, I remember seeing your pictures on Twitter, because that was some day blowing a hoolie, wasn't it?
Oh, wasn't it just? I couldn't stand up. I had to lean against the car just to use a lens. It was it was mad, absolutely mad. But I mean, what a thing to see. It's like, wow.
Yeah. And then so obviously we're talking about, this is one thing I'm sort of campaigning with you guys with WDC at the minute is, ending. We won't go into too much detail about it because we'll keep it lighthearted, but we're talking about the distances that these animals are undertaking, and obviously, and then I'm sort of working with you guys on like ending captivity and everything, which whale and dolphin conservation are doing so well. And there's lots of things that people listening, if you are interested, you can do. You can head to the WDC's website, and there's a lot of information there what you can do to help. Don't buy a ticket. Go with reasonable and eco-minded tour companies that don't promote these attractions and stuff like that. But is there anything else that people can do listening to help dolphins, particularly here in the
UK? Watch what you're flushing down the loo and watch what you're pouring down the sink, because that all helps water quality. And water quality around the UK has come into the headlines just recently, and we won't go too deeply into that because it's not a very nice subject, but that kind of thing, habitat quality is extremely important, and where you have indicator species like dolphins and seals and otters and that kind of stuff, you got to cherish what you have and just look after the place. If you see any litter on the beach, and for God's sake, pick it up, and don't dispose of litter in a stupid way to begin with. That would certainly help. But certainly the litter problem's a big one, and there's a lot of people getting involved in that. But also being selective about where you get your seafood from. Don't support trawlers or dredgers or anything like that. Try and support the wee local guy that hand picks the langoustines and the scallops and that kind of stuff. Don't try not to believe some of the kind of PR bullshit, and just look at the packaging carefully. If you're in a shop and it's packaged, then look at it very, very carefully and see what it says. But also just love nature a little bit more. Just love it a bit more. We're living in a kind of crazy world now, and nothing's very certain. So, but there is something certain, and that's that nature's brilliant. That is without doubt, and I'm sure you and I are in complete agreement about this. Nature is brilliant, and just show a bit of love. And if you can volunteer with one of the local wildlife groups, if you can maybe even go on one of the training courses with British Divers Marine Life Rescue, Obviously support the charity, whale and dolphin conservation, either as an adopter or just give them some money, really. Then that gives us the power to actually do things not only in this country but all around the globe. But just care a bit more, just love a bit more. That's what we need to do.
Exactly. Thank you. Well said as well, Charlie. So I was going to say, we're screaming through time. I'm going to ask you one more. God, I could talk to you all night, but I'm going to ask you one more question before we start wrapping up. So, published photographer, phenomenal chap. That I like to call you the king of dolphin photography here in the UK. But I was just going to say, I mean, I do. That's what I've saved you in my phone. But I was just going to ask you, have you ever photographed an inanimate object and then posted it on Twitter, convincing the world that you and Billy Heaney have discovered a previously unknown whale new to science? Have you ever done something like that?
Me? No.
That
was a scream, wasn't it?
That was funny. I mean, from a distance, just so you're all aware, me and Charlie were on a boat September last year, and we were just catching up about this before we started recording. And the all week before I got on the boat, I remember it was beautiful weather. You'd had a perler of a day 2 or 3 days before I came out. Dolphins, basking sharks, everything, complete mill pond. As the UK weather can do, sod's law, I finally get out on a boat for the first time since lockdown, and it is blowing a hoolie down the Moray Firth. And then we head out with Eco Ventures, had a great time, didn't we? But and I was thinking, I've got to try and prove myself. I've got to try and spot a dolphin, get those eyes back in gear. I used to do this for a living. I can do it again. And then lo and behold, I spot a dorsal fin on the horizon. I remember you punched me in the arm, being like, "What a spot!" Sarah was like, "We were off, weren't we, to get nearer and nearer?" And as we got, as it was about 100 yards away, I was like, "Nah, that's acting a bit weird." And then I was like, and then I realized that dorsal fin also had a twig with a leaf sticking out next to it as we got nearer, and it was a blooming log, wasn't it?
God, I was seeing this through the lens. I mean, I was seeing this through the camera. I was thinking, "Oh, Billy, you're going to get the piss ripped out of you, boy." I'm telling you.
Dear.
What's it I did later on? I downloaded the picture, and I think I called it a loggerback whale or something like that.
You called it, the loggerback whale.
Loggerback whale.
And I think
because it was actually part of a tree that had washed down one of the rivers. And from a distance, I'll give you your due, boy. I'll tell you. From a distance, it just looked like the little hump that you get on a humpback whale. It was pretty damn good.
It was a distance, and I remember you tweeted it. I think you put it out the day after or that afternoon or whatever. And the Latin name you did, Mr. C.T. Heaney Eye. I stuck with it, and I remember my phone blew up, and I had a couple of people text me like, "Mate, this is unbelievable! I can't believe this!" And then on the opposite as well. And I remember checking your Twitter feed because I kept an eye on it for a couple of days just to see, because some people bit, other people were very good and carried on the joke, but that did make me chuckle.
Well, you've got to have a laugh, haven't you?
Of course you have. Well, I think that was a good day. Sadly, no dolphins, but we did discover a new species of cetacean unknown to science. So, I mean, you can't ask for more than that again.
Well, there you go. You can't. you just can't. There you go. That was a special day. I really enjoyed that.
That was good fun. Well,
anytime spent with you is a pretty good day. If I get up in the morning and know that I'm going to be meeting you either on the beach or out in a boat, it's not too bad. It could be a lot worse.
Likewise. And usually it's flipping freezing, so we need to try and go somewhere more warm next time. Oh, brilliant. Well, Charlie, it's awesome been catching up with you today, and thank you for coming on, and hopefully everyone's enjoyed it. And I'm trying to get up to Scotland again next year so we can get some. I need a dolphin fix. I've not seen a dolphin since I was with you last September. Look, I've got the shakes.
The shakes. Oh dear.
I haven't got
the dolphin tremors, it's called. Yeah.
It is. I haven't got my T-shirt on today that says "Dolphins, not drugs." I mean, I need to get that printed again.
Yeah. No, very best wishes to Jack Perks and to all the listeners in the podcast. It's been an absolute blast, and we need to do this another time. Maybe even live from the beach.
Yes,
while we're watching dolphins. That would be good, wouldn't it?
Let's put that in the diary for next year. All right, Charlie, all the best, mate, and I will see you soon.
Take care, keep safe. All the best. Bye now.